Recording in progress.
Good afternoon, students. Can you hear my voice? Can you see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's well and good. Okay, fine. So, student. As last class, we have discussed about this program, that is class called demo. See, last class we have discussed about a simple Java program. That is how to write a simple Java program, and that's what we have discussed in the previous class. The most important thing is, students, in the previous class, actually, I missed this argument. Okay? While I'm writing the code, I missed this argument. Okay? So inside this main function, we need to pass an argument. This argument is of type string. In other words, it's an array of string. You see that this square bracket. Okay, the square bracket, and the square bracket indicates that args is an array. And what's the type of array? The type of array is string. Okay, the most important thing, students, in Java, string is not a data type. Okay, in Java, string is not a data type. String is not a data type. Okay, string is not a data type in Java. Then what is string? String is a predefined class. Okay, string is a predefined class. You see that writing like this: string. Okay. S is in uppercase. Okay, the string is nothing but it is a predefined class, and string is not a data type. Okay, that's the most important thing you need to know. Okay. So this main method, you see that this main method is going to take one argument. It's going to take one argument. The name of the argument is args, and the type of this is string. The most important, the args is an array. Okay, it's an array of strings. It's an array of strings. Okay, fine. So let me clear my drawings. Yeah. So once you write the program, so successfully I've written a program. The most important thing, students, a Java program can be typed in any editor of your choice. Right now, I picked Notepad as my editor. I picked the Notepad as my editor. You can use any editor of your choice. So once you type the program, what you should do, you need to save your program. In other words, you need to save your file. So how to save your file? Go to File and click Save As. And click Save As. So once you click Save As, what you should do, you need to specify the file name. You see that you need to specify the file name. Here you need to specify the file name. Now we shall see how to specify a file name to a Java program. Okay, we are going to see how to specify a file name to a Java program. Let us see now. Let me close this. Okay, let me clear my drawings. So now I've written this program, right? So I've written this program, and for this program I need to save. In order to save this program, what I should do, I need to specify a name to the file. How to specify a name to the file? And before that, all Java programs will have extension called .java. All Java programs will have extension called .java. And before this .java, we need to specify the name of your program or the name of your source code. Students, with respect to Java, whenever you want to give a name to your file, you should always give the name of the class as your file name. So right now, what is the name of my class? It is demo. So therefore, the name of the file should be demo.java. You can't give whatever name you want. You cannot give. Okay, you need to give the name of the class as your name of the file. So with respect to my program, the name of the class is demo. So that's why the name of the file also is demo, and .java is extension. So all Java programs will have extension called .java. So this is how you're going to specify, or this is how you're going to give a name to your Java program. Is it right, students? So once you save the file, so right now I've saved the file as demo.java. Yes, someone is talking. Any questions, students? Please mute your mic. So any questions, you can unmute and you can ask. Otherwise, please maintain silence. So once I specify the name as demo.java, what I should do, students, I need to compile this program. What I need to? I need to compile. I need to compile this program. How to compile a Java program? See, in order to compile a Java program, what you should do, we need to use a tool called Java C. Okay, we need to use a tool called Java. We need to use a tool called Java C. You see that? See, Java, and C. The C stands for compile. The C stands for compile. Is that right, student? I need to use a tool called Java C. Here is this, Java C, and followed by the name of the file which I want to compile. And what's the name of my file? The name of my file is demo. Demo.java. Demo.java. So these are you are going to compile a Java program. How you are going to compile, students? You need to use a tool called Java C. You need to use a tool called Java C. Then after this, you need to specify the name of the file which you want to compile. So once I compile this program, what's going to happen? I'm going to get a dot class file. I'm going to get a dot class file. Once I compile this program successfully. In other words, when I compile a program, if there are no errors in this program, if there are no errors in this code, okay, so it gives a file called dot class file. In other words, if I compile this program successfully, I'll be getting a dot class file. And what is the name of this dot class file? And what's the name of this dot class file? And the name of this dot class file will be the name of the class. And what is the name of the file? The name of the file is nothing but it is demo. The same thing I'll get here. Okay? The name of this dot class file will be demo.java. The name which you are given to the file and the same corresponding dot class file will be created. Is it right, students? So once I compile the program, okay, successfully, it's going to produce a dot class file that is demo.java. And we call this dot class file. And we call this dot class file. We call this dot class file as bytecode. We call this dot class file as bytecode. We call this dot class file as bytecode. I repeat, students. So after typing the program, what we should do? We need to save the file. How to save the file? We need to give demo.java. Why you pick demo? Because demo is nothing but it's your class name. Okay. So next, after picking the name of the file, what we should do? We need to compile the program. How to compile the program? In order to compile the program, we should write Java C, then followed by demo.java. So once I compile the program successfully, it's going to return a dot class file. And what's the name of this dot class file? The name of this dot class file is demo.class. How I got this name called demo.class? It's nothing but it is my class name. What's my class name? Demo. So with respect to this class name called demo, the corresponding dot class file has been created. And we call this dot class file as bytecode. We call this dot class file as bytecode. The most important thing, students, probably you might have heard that people will be telling Java is a platform. Java is a platform independent programming language. Java is a platform independent programming language. You're right, students. Probably you might have heard about this. Java is a platform independent. Okay, very. What is that? It is a platform independent programming language. What is this platform independent programming language? Let us see that. Okay, let us see. Let me share a slide. I hope you can see my PPTs, right, students? You can see my PPT. Now let us discuss. Yeah. Now let us discuss what is platform dependent. Let us discuss what is platform dependent. The languages C or C++. Okay, these two programming languages, we call this as a platform dependent programming language. I repeat, we call the C and C++ as platform dependent programming language. What do you mean by platform dependent? Here, the word platform refers to your operating system. Okay, the word platform refers to your operating system. Here you see the students have written a simple C program. I've written a simple C program, and the same C program I'm trying to compile in Sun Solaris. Sun Solaris is an operating system. I'm trying to run in a Sun Solaris. Okay, and the same C program I'm trying to compile in Windows operating system, and the same C program I'm trying to compile in Mac OS, and the same C program I'm trying to run is Linux operating system. Okay, so when I'm trying to compile in each and every operating system, I'm going to get a corresponding exe file, or we call this as a binary file. Okay, that's what we call this as a binary code or a binary file. Okay, you see that here I'm getting a separate binary file. Here I got a separate binary file. Here I got a separate binary file. In other words, in each and every platform, I'm getting a separate exe file. Okay, how this exe file has been generated? This exe file has been generated with respect to the platform. What platform I've used here? Here I've used a platform called, here I've used a platform called Sun Solaris. So with respect to the platform called Sun Solaris, the corresponding exe file has been generated. Here also you see that with respect to Windows operating system, the corresponding exe file has been generated. Okay, you see that here also with respect to Mac OS, the corresponding exe file has been generated, and with respect to Linux operating system, the corresponding exe file has been generated. So by this, what we can come to know that based on the platform, in other words, based on the operating system, the corresponding exe file has been generated. We call exe file. We call this exe file as executable file. Okay, we call this exe file as executable file. So based on the platform, the corresponding executable file has been created. So what it means? See, that's step one you should understand. So based on the platform, I'm going to generate the corresponding exe file. Now this exe file, I can't run in Windows operating system. Okay, this exe file which has been generated with respect to Sun Solaris, I can't run in Windows operating system. Why I can't run? Because this binary file or this exe file has been generated by considering the platform called Sun Solaris. Okay, in other words, this code, let me change the color. In other words, this code can be understand. This binary file can be understand only by Sun Solaris. This binary file cannot be understood by this Windows operating system. It cannot understand. So that's why if I try to run this exe file in Windows operating system, you won't get the output. Instead of that, you're going to get an error. You're going to get an error. So why you're getting error? Because this binary file has been generated with respect to the platform called Sun Solaris. This binary file, what you can do? This binary file you can execute. This binary file you can execute only in Sun Solaris operating system. In other operating system, you can't run. Why? Because this binary file has been generated by considering the platform called Sun Solaris. I hope you understood this. It's quite simple, students. Let me try to summarize. Okay, I've written a simple C program, and the C program, what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to compile. I'm trying to compile in Sun Solaris. Once I compile in Sun Solaris, I'm going to get an exe file. I'm going to get an exe file, and we call this exe file also as a binary file. Okay. Now, what this exe file I can do? This exe file I can run. This exe file I can run or I can execute. Where I can run or execute? I can run and execute on Sun Solaris. I can execute on Sun Solaris. Why I can execute on Sun Solaris? Because this binary file has been generated by considering the platform called Sun Solaris. Okay. Now, the same binary file which has been generated with respect to Sun Solaris, I can't run. I can't run in Windows operating system. Why I can't run in Windows operating system? Because this entire binary code can be understood only by Sun Solaris operating system. Windows operating system cannot understand this binary code. Okay, so we call this code and we call this binary file or exe file as platform dependent. We call this as platform dependent. Why we call this binary file as platform dependent? Based on the platform, means based on the operating system, I'm going to generate the corresponding exe file. That's the meaning of platform dependent. Any questions, students? You can ask me. Any questions? You can ask me. Here also you see that the same C program, in the same C program, I'm trying to compile in Windows operating system. If I compile in Windows operating system, I'm going to get the corresponding exe file. I'm going to get the corresponding exe file. This box is an exe file. I'm going to get the corresponding exe file. And this exe file, I can run in Windows operating system. The same exe file, if I try to run in Mac OS, it throws error. It throws error. Why it throws error? Because this exe file or binary file can be understood only by Windows operating system. Okay, if you try to run in Mac OS cannot understand. Okay, that's what it is. Platform dependent. So based on the platform, called Windows operating system, I've generated the corresponding binary file. Here also you said based on the Mac OS, I've generated the corresponding exe file, and based on the Linux operating system, I've generated the corresponding exe file. And this exe file you can't run in other operating system. Why you can't run in other operating system? Because each and every exe file or binary file that has been generated, it has been generated with respect to the platform. The platform means it is operating system. So that's why we call the C or C++ as platform dependent programming language. Whereas Java, we call this Java as a platform independent. So now let us see what is this platform independent. And before that, students, have you understood what is this platform dependent? Understood this, student? No? Anyhow, let me put next slide, then you can understand this. You see that now I'm discussing Java is a platform independent. You see that Java is a platform independent programming language. What is platform independent? You noticed here, I've written a Java program. If I'm compiling this Java program, I'm trying to compile Java program in where? Platform called Sun Solaris. The same Java program I'm trying to compile in Windows operating system, and the same Java program I'm trying to compile in Mac OS, and the same Java program I'm trying to compile in Linux operating system. Okay. You see the students, each and every platform is generating a same bytecode. You see that each platform is generating a same bytecode. Each platform is generating a same bytecode. See that each platform is generating the same bytecode. In other words, irrespective of in what platform you're trying to compile, irrespective of what platform you're trying to compile, what I'm going to get? I'm going to get the same bytecode. You see that irrespective of what platform I'm trying to compile the code, I'm getting the same bytecode. But that is not true in the case of C or C++. With respect to C or C++, if I'm trying to compile, I'm getting a separate exe file. Here also I'm getting a separate exe file, and here also I'm getting a separate exe file, and here also I'm getting a separate exe file. But that is not true in the case of Java. As you see that in the case of Java, if I'm trying to compile the same Java program, either in Sun Solaris, Windows, Mac OS, or Linux, I'm getting the same bytecode. So since I'm getting the same bytecode, we call Java as a platform independent programming language. Independent means irrespective of what platform you're trying to compile the source code, I'm going to get the same bytecode. Now let me clear my drawing. Okay, I'm going to get the same bytecode. Now since I'm getting the same bytecode, what you can do, you see that I can compile the above Java program in Sun Solaris. Once I compile, what I'll get a corresponding bytecode. I'm getting a corresponding bytecode. And this bytecode, what I can do, I can run in Linux. This bytecode I can run in Linux. No problem. Why? Because if I run in Windows, if I run in Mac OS, if I run in Linux, I'm going to get the same bytecode. Since I'm going to get the same bytecode, this bytecode, what I can do, I can run in any platform. But that is not true in the case of C or C++. See, with respect to C or C++, what we have discussed, if I'm trying to compile, I'll get an exe file. I'm getting exe file. And this exe file, I can run only in Sun Solaris. I can't run in Windows. Why I can't run in Windows? Because this exe file is a platform dependent. In other words, with respect to the platform Sun Solaris, this corresponding exe file has been generated. So that's why this exe file, you can run only in Sun Solaris, but you can't run in Windows. But whereas that is not true in the case of Java. In the Java, what you see that if I compile in Sun Solaris, if I compile in Windows, if I compile in Mac OS, if I compile in Linux, I'm going to get the same bytecode. I'm going to get the same bytecode. We call this as bytecode. Now, what you can do, I can compile in Sun Solaris, and I can run the program in Linux. Where I've compiled, I compiled in Sun Solaris, and where I'm trying to run, I can run in Linux. Not only that, I can run in Mac OS. Otherwise, what I can do, I can compile the program. In Mac OS, and I can run the program in Windows. I can do it. Why? How it is possible? Because I'm generating a platform independent bytecode. That's why the bytecode is very, very important. I have finished my discussion, students. Have you understood this bytecode? What is this platform dependent and what is platform independent? Any response from your end? Understood, students?
Yes, sir.
That's very good. Good response. That's very important. You should understand the difference between what is platform dependent and platform independent. There's a question they'll be asking in YOIs. Why Java is called as platform independent? Why it is called as platform independent? Irrespective of in what platform you're trying to compile your Java code. Irrespective of what platform you're trying to compile your Java code, you're going to get the same bytecode. So this bytecode is platform independent. Why platform independent? Irrespective of what platform you're trying to compile, you're going to get the same bytecode. Okay? And that's what it is. That's why we call this bytecode as platform independent. Anyhow, let us move to the next slide. So let us see what is this bytecode all about. We'll come to this later. Yeah, you can go to this slide, student. Bytecode is Java's magic. Why it is a magic? Because irrespective of what platform you're trying to compile the code, you are going to get the same bytecode. Okay. Now, see, the most important thing is the output of Java compiler. It's very important. The output. Okay. The output of Java compiler is not executable file. That's very, very important. The output of Java compiler is not executable file, but what it is nothing but it is a bytecode. That's very, very important. See, let us consider C or C++. Let us consider C or C++. Okay? Let us consider C or C++. The C or C++, when you write a program, we call this as source code. Okay? C or C++ source code. When you write the program, what you're going to do? You're going to compile. Okay? You're going to compile the program. Once you compile the program, you're going to get an exe file. We call this exe file as executable file. Call this as an executable file, and this executable file, what we can do, you can run it. But that is not true in the case of Java. Let us assume this is Java. Source code. It's a Java source code. When you compile this Java source code, you are going to get a dot class file. And we call this dot class file. And we call this dot class file as bytecode. Okay? We call this dot class file as bytecode. Okay. So in order to run this dot class file, okay, you need to use a JVM. Okay. This dot class file, this dot class file, this dot class file will be given as input your JVM, and this JVM runs your dot class file. So once it runs your dot class file, and you'll get the corresponding output. See that? When you compile, you'll get dot class file in Java. That's very important. When you compile, you'll get a dot class file. Your dot class file is nothing but it's a bytecode. Whereas in C and C++, when you compile a program, you'll get a directly executable file. But that is not true in the case of Java. When you compile, you'll get a dot class file, and we call this dot class file as bytecode. And this bytecode in turn is executed, or in turn it is interpreted by JVM in order to get the corresponding output. Okay, and that's what is very important. You should understand. Next, what is this bytecode? Bytecode is nothing but it is an highly optimized set of instructions. Okay, it is highly optimized set of instructions that is designed to be executed by Java runtime system, which we call it as JVM. And that's what I said. Okay, this dot class file will be executed by your JVM. And JVM stands for Java Virtual Machine. And sometimes we call this JVM as Java Runtime System. Java Runtime System, Java Virtual Machine, both are one and the same. Both are one and the same. Okay. So what this Java Virtual Machine will do, this Java Virtual Machine interprets, very important. It interprets the bytecode. It interprets the bytecode into executable form. Okay. It interprets the bytecode into executable form. Means this bytecode will be it converts the bytecode into an executable form. In other words, this can be executed by your JVM. That's what it says. Inside your JVM, that's one more thing. Actually, some enhancement is there with respect to JVM. Initial JVM does not have this JIT. Okay, JIT stands for just-in-time compiler. Okay, JIT stands for just-in-time compiler. Inside your JVM, you'll be having a just-in-time compiler. Okay, inside your JVM, you'll be having a JVM. Inside your JVM, you'll be having a JIT. We call this as just-in-time compiler. What it does, it selects portions of your bytecode and compiles it into an executable code. In other words, inside this JVM, what I'm trying to load a dot class file. I'm going to load a dot class file. So once I load this dot class file, what this JIT will do? This JIT compiles the dot class file. It compiles this dot class file into an executable code. That's what it says. Nothing else. Only one thing you should understand here. JIT, which is a part of JVM, what it does, it compiles the dot class file into corresponding executable code. So yes. Let me clear my drawing. Let me illustrate this diagram. Let me clear it. You see that here. Okay. The file name is example.java. Let me change my color. Yeah. The file name is example.java. So in order to compile this, what I have done, I have used JavaC followed by corresponding example.java. Once I compile this program, I'm going to get a dot class file. Okay. The name of the dot class file is example. How I got example? Your example is nothing but it's my name of the class. I'll illustrate this later, students. It's nothing but this name of the class. So based on the name of the class, I got this name called example. This example dot class is nothing but it's a bytecode. And what is this bytecode? This bytecode is nothing but your platform independent code. It's a platform independent code. So once you get this bytecode, or once you get this dot class file, what you should do? You need to run this dot class file. How to run this dot class file? In order to run this dot class file, you need to use a tool called Java. In order to run the dot class file, you need to use a tool called Java, followed by the corresponding dot class file. What's the corresponding dot class file? That is example. The most important, when you're running a program, you should not use dot class. You should not use dot class. You should specify the name of the class, that is example. Okay. So in order to run this dot class file, or in order to run the bytecode, it is mandatory that you need to install this JVM. Okay, in order to run this dot class file, it is mandatory that you need to install this JVM. Now the question comes, how we can install this JVM? See students, in order to run your Java programs, you need to install a software called JDK. You need to install a software called JDK, and JDK stands for Java Development Toolkit. JDK stands for Java Development Toolkit. So when you try to install this JDK, then JVM will be installed automatically. JVM will be installed automatically as a part of this JDK installation. Okay? So once you install this JDK, automatically this JVM will be installed. In case you're not interested to install this JDK, you want to install only JVM. In such a case, you can install a package called JRE. Can install a package called JRE. JRE stands for Java Runtime Environment. So once you install this JRE, so this JRE is nothing but your JVM. This JRE is nothing but is your JVM. So like this, you can install your JVM. Okay. The most important thing here is, you should understand is, this JVM is a platform dependent. Okay. What is JVM? JVM is a software, and this software is a platform dependent software. What is platform dependent? See, Windows operating system is having its own JVM. Linux is having its own JVM, and Mac is having its own JVM. Since each and every operating system is having its own JVM, and we call this JVM as platform dependent. In other words, the JVM which you install in Windows operating system, you can't install in Linux. No, you can't install. Why? Because this JVM is platform dependent, and this JVM has been designed only for Windows operating system. Suppose you want to install a JVM for Linux, then you should install a separate JVM with respect to Linux operating system. Similarly, with respect to Mac, we'll be having a separate JVM. Okay, so that's why we call this JVM as a platform dependent, whereas bytecode is a platform independent. Okay, so let me clear my drawings. And let me do some animation here. See that? Here will come. I think here it comes animation. But you see, students, here I've written a simple. Here I've written a simple program. Okay, and what's the name of my class? The name of the class is example. See that name of the class is example, and with respect to the name of the class, I have created a file called example.java. Okay, with respect to the name of the class, I have created a file called example.java. And next, what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to compile this example.java. How I'm trying to compile? In order to compile, let me take a mark. In order to compile, I've used Java C tool. I've used a tool called Java C. Right. So once I compile. I'll get a dot class file. And what's the name of this dot class file? The name is nothing but is the name of the class. And what's the name of my class? It is example. That's why I got example dot class. And what is this example dot class? This example dot class is nothing but it is a bytecode. And what is this bytecode? This bytecode is a platform independent code. Why it's a platform independent code? Because if I run this example.java in Windows operating system, I'll be getting a file called example.class. The same Java file, if I try to run in Linux operating system, then also I'll get the same .class file, that is example.java. And if I run the same example.java in Mac OS, then also I'll get the same example.class file. Since in all these operating system, you see that the same Java program, I'm trying to execute in different operating system. I'm trying to run in different operating system. Even though I'm running in different operating systems, still I'm getting a single dot class file. Since I'm getting a single is nothing but it's not single. I'm getting the same dot class file. I'm getting the same dot class file. So that's why we call this as platform independent. So that's why we call this bytecode as a platform independent. Right, students? So once I get the dot class file, what I should do, students? Once I get this dot class file, I need to run the program. How to run the program? In order to run the program, I need to use a tool called Java and corresponding name of my dot class. And what is the name of my dot class? It is example. Okay. Now, in order to run the dot class file, it is mandatory that you need to install JVM on your operating system. Okay, so what I'm trying to do, so if you are using Windows operating system, and with respect to in Windows operating system, you need to install corresponding JVM. In case you are using Linux operating system, with respect to Linux operating system, you need to install corresponding JVM. In case you are using Mac OS, and with respect to Mac OS, you need to install corresponding JVM. Okay, once you install JVM, then what you can do, you can run the corresponding dot class file. So once you run the corresponding dot class file, and you will get the output. With respect to my program, what's the output? Here I'm trying to do system.out.println. I'm trying to print this message. This is a simple Java program. And the output will be like this. I'll get output like this is a simple, this is a simple Java program. Simple Java. Right, students? That's what is platform independent. This JVM, okay, this JVM is a platform independent. This JVM is a platform independent, and inside this JVM, I'll be having a just-in-time compiler. Okay, what is just-in-time compiler will do? It compiles the bytecode. Okay, just-in-time compiler, it compiles the bytecode into corresponding executable code. Okay, compile just-in-time compiler, it compiles the bytecode. What is the bytecode? That is dot class file. It compiles the bytecode into corresponding executable code. I finished my discussion, students. Any questions up to now? The most important thing is you should understand what is bytecode. Very important question. What is bytecode? What is bytecode? A bytecode is nothing but is an highly optimized set of instructions. And we call this as intermediate code also. Sometimes we call this bytecode as intermediate code. Okay? Intermediate code. This is intermediate code. Have you understood, students, what is this bytecode? What is this platform independent? Have you understood?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, only one student is responding. What about others? At least you can type in your chat.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and that's good. I need a good response from your end. That's good. Now let us discuss one more thing here. Your response encourages your faculty. Okay, so I need response. Now you see the students inside the main method. Inside the main method, I passed. You see that I passed an argument. That's what I said. I passed an argument. Okay. What is this ARGS? ARGS is an array, right? That's what you're seeing. ARGS is an array. Okay. And what's the type of array? The type of array is string. Okay. Now let us see. This is what I'm going to discuss right now. Let us see. I think you know how to compile the program and how to run the program. Okay. So these are you are going to compile the program, and these are you are going to run the program. Okay. Okay, fine. I hope you understand this. Now I'll do a small change here. Let me clear my drawings. I think you know, students. These are you are going to run the program, right? So these are going to run the program. But here I'm going to pass. Okay, after specifying the name of the class, I'm going to specify some additional arguments. Okay, so what are the additional arguments I'm going to specify? Let us see that. See that. See that. I passed the additional arguments. What's the additional arguments I passed? How many arguments I passed, students? I passed 2 arguments. Hi is my first argument. Hi is my first argument. And next I pass one more argument called 1. This is my second argument. Students, there is no constraint that you should pass only 2 arguments. We can pass n number of arguments, or we can pass 0 arguments. 0 arguments means just I can run the program like this. Just I can run the program. That is Java example. Once I run the program something like this, what I'll get? I'll get the corresponding output. What output I'll get? This is a simple Java program. But now instead of running something like this plainly, what I've done here, I'm